So this is your Vance, and thank you for joining with me. And today I have a guest with me today. All right, that is Lilian Ong. So she will be joining us very very shortly on board, and then she's going to talk with us. But I'm just going to do a very quick introduction about Lilian. She has a very great profile, right? She's actually the founder of Wellness Journey and a registered counselor, and she has almost 2 decades of counseling experiences in diverse settings. So she has a counseling experience in the prison systems, public healthcare, and private practice as well. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Lilian on. Hi, Lilian.
Hi, Vance.
How
Hi,
are you
thanks for
there today?
having me on the show.
Thank you so much taking time. And I know, Lilian, that you are still in the office today.
Yeah. Because
Wow.
I think this my office space is my sanctuary actually. It's
Ah,
where I provide care to my clients, and it's also where I get to think and reflect about the work that I do. And I think it's also a conducive space for us to do this sharing.
right. So thank you once again for joining me, Vance, in the
Yeah,
Kopi
my
report.
pleasure
All
to
right.
be here.
Sorry?
My pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Lillian, I know I just did a very brief introduction about yourself, but I think it's better if you can just tell our audiences who we are speaking with today.
Sure. Yeah, I'll share a bit more about
Yeah.
my career. So I started working as a counselor like 20 years ago. Started from doing counseling in the prisons. And at that time, wow, just 20 years doesn't sound like a long time, but then it has really brought about a lot of changes to what we understand about mental health. When I first started out as a counselor, right, at that time, I thought that I'll be seeing clients who are facing like the worst kind of situations in their life, and that's why they
Right.
need counseling help. Yeah, so that was kind of true, especially when I work in the prison setting. A lot of the inmates actually got into drugs and crime because of very difficult family situations. Of
Mhm.
course, that's no excuse for the crimes that they commit, but for a lot of them, it's actually the kind of life experiences that shape the way they think and the options that they think they have to cope with the challenges and problems that they face. Yeah, so that really opened my eyes to the whole world of like how humans can be affected by life experiences And then after that, I moved on to work in the hospital setting. And because it was within a psychiatry unit, so I worked as a counselor with a team of psychiatrists. And usually people only go to the hospital to see specialists like psychiatrists when they are in great distress, right? So again, I saw how people from all walks of life and even very successful backgrounds, successful careers, high flyers, they're able to manage like tens or maybe even hundreds of people in their company, but still they can be susceptible to stress and vulnerability when the stress gets too overwhelming. Yeah, so I realized that hey, actually all of us can be affected by stress and our mental well-being can suffer. So it's really not only for people who have like very difficult backgrounds, but at some point in our lives, when the stress gets too much for us to cope with, or it could be accumulated stress over a long period of time, and that leads to burnout and depression and anxiety. Yeah, and so when I realized that I really wanted to do more upstream work like prevention of all these mental health problems. And that's why, even though it was a very, very amazing team that I worked with, otherwise I wouldn't have stayed for 13 years in the hospital. But I decided I wanted to come out to private practice, and from there I can do more in um, raising awareness and also to help people get access to support, counseling support earlier on, not having to wait until they're in like such huge
You
distress.
know, Lilian, you just shared that one of your working experiences is also with the prison system as well.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it can be very emotional roller coasters, right? I mean, depending on the individuals who are going through. So I'm sure you have seen many cases or other situations in your 2 decades of your profession. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, we're going to come back to that. But
Yeah.
yes, please finish up with your introduction.
So, sorry, say again.
Finish up with your introduction, then we can go into the questions, and then we're going to give you some tough questions as well today.
Uh, Oh, yeah. So here I am now in private practice, and I'm really glad that, especially with more awareness in recent years, right, and the younger generations, like adults in their early 20s to their 30s, are a lot more open to seeking help. So now in my private practice, I actually have more than half of my clients not in a state of depression or anxiety, but they just want to learn more about how they can take care of their well-being when our life is so fast-paced and stressful now. So they like being more proactive in wanting to maintain their well-being, and they're open to seeking help for that as well. Yeah, so I'm really glad it is shifting.
Thank you, Lilian. Thank you for the great introduction. Even I myself starting to learn more about yourself, what you do, and very interesting profile that you have. You also mentioned that you did a lot of corporate organization and in the public as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more on that and what actually causes all these situations around us to feel that we
Mm,
are getting into these issues within ourselves.
mm,
The first question I'm going to go into is, of course, mental health, right? Even
mm-hmm,
our health minister Ong Yin Khan, he
mm-hmm.
also had mentioned that in the LTSG, mental health is one of the priorities to be involved in.
Yeah.
Um, mental health has been talking. I mean, we've been talking about mental health since the start of the 2020, which is the COVID period. But
Mm-hmm.
we believe, I'm sure you're going to suggest something as well. Mental health was an issue even in the 1970s. Can we say that?
Yeah. 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 Mental health has always been an issue. Just that 1970s, there's no such thing as internet, right? So the only place you hear mental health talk is probably in the hospitals, yeah, where people are seeking help for mental health issues. But outside of that setting, people don't talk about it because there's huge stigma around mental health due to the lack of awareness, lack of understanding. So people think that, wow, if you have mental illness or if you need to see a psychiatrist, oh, it must be really something major, something lifelong that you won't be able to recover from. Yeah. So at that time, mental illness was already present, like as yeah, in humans, because we have a mind and the mind can fall sick, just like our physical health. So yeah, mental health issues have been around all these decades, but it's because of more awareness due to
Right.
availability of information on the internet and how we can communicate so easily nowadays. We can share information so easily. So there's been a lot more attention on it. That's one of the reasons. Yeah.
Thank you, Lilian. And of course, as we mentioned about it, right? I mean, mental health has been there for more than 40, 50 years. I mean, of course, with um, social medias that is really helping
Mm,
people. Of course, in a certain way, of course, we're going to talk
mm,
about AI maybe perhaps later on. But can we say that is it stress compared to the previous generations? Because we are now more
mm,
comfortable. We got
mm.
elevators, we got escalators, everything is in very comfort zone.
Yeah. So
Is the comfort zone is one of the one of the contributors to stress or to this lifestyle that we are in now.
well, it seems like life is relatively more comfortable now compared to like 50 years ago, right? And it has taken our forefathers a lot to build our nation to where it is now. So actually, if you think about it, like according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so this psychologist who looks at human needs, that there is a hierarchy, and the most basic need first is we need to be physically safe to survive, right? Just to survive and be physically safe. That is the fundamental. So in the past, when like our grandparents' generation, yeah, they're really still trying to feed their families, make sure
Right.
everyone is surviving. Yeah. So the focus then was a lot on like working hard, right?
Hmm.
Just focusing on working hard, bringing the bacon home, yeah, making sure that all your children have enough food to eat. And then of course they start thinking a bit about like social progression. So they start to get their children to attend school, yeah, seeing that education is the way to have stable jobs in the future. So I think even up to my generation, when I first started working, the mindset was still such that as long as we do decent or do well in school, that would actually guarantee us a stable job, and we're supposed to have like no worries after we start working, and then we'll be able to provide us for ourselves, build a family. Yeah, so in the past that was enough, but you see the recent 20-30 years, everything is changing so quickly.
Right.
The kind of stress that we're facing now is very different from the kind of stress that is just about survival and feeding the family. Now there's a lot more mental stress because of like expectations. Yeah, you don't just complete your work, and the kind of work that we do is also not like manufacturing work anymore. It's a lot of what we call knowledge economy, right?
Right.
A lot of our jobs depend on our brain, yeah, to solve problems, to think of creative solutions, innovative
Mhm.
solutions. And the way things are being interlinked now is really so much more complex compared
Right.
to the past. Yeah, because of globalization, because of how really one process really affects another process, not just in your own country, in your own company, but it affects across companies and across countries. So many things are interrelated. So I would say it's really a very different kind of stress that places a lot more burden on our mind.
So let's say if in your profession right now, what is
Mm,
the most of the situation that you see? Is it burnout,
mm.
anxiety, stress, depression? What do you see the most?
Actually, most commonly faced issues are burnout, depression,
Right.
anxiety, and these are all stress related.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the stress can come from work. Yeah,
Right.
not always work demands though. Okay, yeah, the stress related to work can be the workload, can be the work demands, but it can also be relationships at work.
Hmm.
Yeah, because people may be like too focused on the work outcomes, and they forget that actually building the relationships at work, having a supportive culture at work is also important to help
Right.
everyone thrive in that workplace so they can work effectively together.
Right.
Yeah, so stress can come from work, it can come from family, especially when you have young children or you have elderly parents to care for. that can put quite a lot of strain on the person juggling both work and family. And then, of course, ideally, we will also want to have some time and space for ourselves, our own interests, right?
But if you compare these to 40 years ago,
Mm,
or maybe
mm,
50 years ago, right? Put it 5 decades ago, and now,
mm,
is the case rising higher and higher as the years
mm.
stats shows?
I think in terms of stats, yes, the numbers do show that prevalence and the rates of mental health issues are
Right.
rising. Yeah. But again, the rise in numbers could be due to several factors. One is increased awareness, so people may be also more willing to step out and acknowledge that, yes, I'm showing some of these symptoms and problems. So can also be due to increased awareness. People can recognize that, oh yeah, the questions that you're asking in this survey, yeah, I recognize myself in these questions, and so they answer in that way. And then, yes, because of the increasing stress in our society, the more fast paced and demands, yeah, higher
Right.
expectations. Yeah, so all this adds to the stress. Yeah. In the
Okay.
past, I believe a lot of families were also able to cope with just single income. Yeah, and mothers could focus more on like nurturing the children. But now you see that in order to maintain our quality, our standard of living, it's really hard to have just one single income. So we have a lot of dual income families, and when they have young children, and still try to juggle work and family responsibilities, that is one big source of tension and stress. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, the next one I want to go into is, of course, what
Yeah.
affects our mental health, because
Mm,
you know, it's not something like a health checkup where you go every 3 months and your doctor say, oh, you're perfectly fine, your blood profile is perfect, and you come back. It is something that is created
mm,
on a daily basis, and situations are
mm,
ever changing around us all the time.
mhm,
And it's also is how we're going to prevent it or how we're going to manage it. But of course,
mhm,
professions like yourself, psychologists, therapists, and psychiatrists, and there are many more professions to help humans. But how do actually these affects our mental health, and how we know that
mm.
this is the time that I need help?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so what affects our mental health? I think first it would be helpful to understand mental health as a continuum.
Right.
Okay, so on one end, we have like very healthy state of mental health, right? Very optimal state of mental health. And then on the other end would be when someone is mentally ill, could be depression, anxiety, or schizophrenia, or OCD. Of course, people don't just go from like having optimal mental health to being mentally ill overnight. Usually it's gradual decline. And decline comes in the form of mood changes.
Right.
It could be changes in their mood. It can be changes in their sleep patterns, their energy levels. Yeah, because there's mind and body connection is real. Yeah. So when we are physically not so healthy, it can affect our mental health and vice versa. Yeah. So maybe later on you could also share with us about how physical health, fitness, how is it related to mental health?
You know,
Yeah.
Lillian, I think we call it sign and symptoms, right? If I can share
Uh-huh.
this, lack
Uh-huh.
of sleep,
Yep.
no interest in communicating with people,
Yep.
isolation, getting
Yes.
very edgy, very agitated. Everything is like,
Mm.
oh, like hungry bear
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
sleeping bear.
Very on edge and irritable,
Yeah,
anxious about everything. Hey, need to do this. Why isn't it done yet? Yeah.
and also what happens is the appetite also increases like 5 times or 4 times. Because you're stressed, you want to eat so that you're happy. You're making the body artificially increasing your
Yeah.
hormones. What do you say
Yeah.
about that?
Some people eat more in reaction to stress, and some people eat less. So it could go either way. And just
Right.
like for sleep, some people, when they're very stressed, they may avoid the stresses by sleeping through. They just want to sleep through everything. They don't want to think and feel and go through all the difficult emotions.
Right.
And some people can't sleep because their mind is so busy with all the negative thoughts, with all the worries, and they can't sleep. Or they fall asleep and then they keep waking up in the middle of the night. I've had clients who are able to like collapse on the bed and fall asleep right away because they're so tired out by all that they have to do in the day. But then in the middle of the night, they wake up in panic. Yeah, literally, yeah, panic. And it's what we call panic attack. So, and it's when a person goes through a anxiety disorder with panic attack, right, it's no longer just about the emotions, feeling stress. The body reacts to the stress with a lot of real physical symptoms, like they have trouble breathing, they feel tight in their chest, they are like breaking out in cold sweat, they might be feeling numb throughout their whole body, like not able to control their movements. Yeah, I've had clients saying it's like my body is not mine anymore.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
and the mind.
the signs and symptoms are very different from individuals, right? It's not something
Yeah.
like you said, some will binge eat more, some doesn't want to eat at all. So it's all the hormones are in the body is just going around. So we need to correct it, right?
Yeah, the signs and symptoms. I mean, we with experience and knowledge, we know what are the common signs and symptoms to look out for. But each person, each client that comes to for our counseling services, they will have their very their own kind of signs and symptoms that they are struggling with, and we have to understand for each client what exactly they're going through, and then we gradually help them overcome these problems.
Right.
So actually, yeah, coming to this question, like what affects mental health, that we can understand it is the biopsychosocial model. Okay, so basically there's three key parts to this: the biology, the psychology, and the social situation. Yeah, so biology includes our physical health and genetics. So our brain chemistry, our hormone balance, and even genetic predisposition to mental health conditions that can affect. So if you have family history of mental health conditions, and in the past it's not so commonly diagnosed, right, because people didn't know and they didn't seek help for it. But sometimes when we ask our clients, they can think back and say, oh yeah, I think my grandparent or my uncle, oh, he also behaved in this way. He was like always very anxious or very easily triggered and angry, has all these outbursts. Yeah, so we can see perhaps, yeah, for this client there is some genetic link to what she is experiencing now. Yeah,
Right.
but that's not to say that if you have the genes, then you definitely are doomed for life, because there's interaction with the other parts, psychology and social.
Right.
Yeah, so psychology would include our coping skills, our outlook and personality traits, the patterns in thinking, which get shaped from childhood all the way through their growing years. Like I don't know whether you come across friends or people that you can see like this person tends to think in a very pessimistic way, like everything
Right.
they just interpret very negatively. But oh, another person is able to look at a more balanced view, or able to look at the positive side of things. So that's just one possible difference in the way people think that can be due to their personality and all their past experiences. What they have been through before will shape the way they think. Yeah. So
Right.
psychological factors include all this. And then there's social factors, which means like your circumstances. Okay, your family situation right now. What's the stage of life? If you're just transiting into parenthood and you're still adjusting to all these new responsibilities, or there are some family conflicts going on that also increases your stress, and also other relationships with your peers or a romantic partner or your work situation or your finances, all this come under social. Yeah, so it's
You know,
actually a
Lilian, now,
complex
may I just
interaction.
share these things with you right now? This is
Yes.
actually from SOS. In the 2022, because we don't have the stat
Mm,
for 23 yet, right? There's about
mm,
476 suicides reported in Singapore, in the highest in more
mm.
than 20 years. The number of suicides in Singapore rose by 25.9% last year. So there's
Yeah,
about
that was really
400
alarming.
suicides reported in Singapore last year itself.
Yeah.
This information by SOS and of course by CNA Channel News Asia. So the numbers are actually quite worrying, right? Because if you have 476 for the year, probably it's about 1.5 a day. So
It
it's
is.
that's a scary numbers to go by.
It
And
is. It is.
yeah, so I mean, is it because the situation changes so rapidly that someone just can't able to manage it because it's overwhelming? You just mentioned, and that actually goes into different segments, right? Like anxiety, stress, burnout, and eventually go into depressions, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. What can one will say? Okay, you know what? I'm under stress right now. I need to seek professional. How do we
hmm
go by that? Or what are the strategies that we are looking at?
Oh, wow. That's a lot of questions in one phrase. Okay. So,
We don't have
do we
time, right? We
address,
got
do,
1 hour, so
yeah. Do we address the suicide first? Okay. So suicide itself as an issue, it's also rather complex. So of course, I don't think we can go into all the details in today's session, but
yeah.
um, it's really one of the worst consequences that can happen if a person's mental health is at risk and not intervened in time. Yeah, then the decline can actually be so bad that the person feels so hopeless that yeah, they really don't see any way to continue living. Yeah, so that
So
is
yeah.
really one of the worst case scenarios that we definitely want to prevent and yeah, do something about it as early as possible. So of course, if you look at each suicide case, the factors could be different, and the signs and symptoms, yeah, might also be different. But for most cases, really, there are signs that we can pick up we if we pay attention. Yeah,
Mhm.
and if we know what are the signs to look out for. Yeah, so that's why with this increased stats last year, it really got the attention of everyone, not just in the mental health industry, but got the attention of the government, got the attention of workplaces, and yeah, most people in the community. So it's now even in the community at the grassroots level, I feel really glad that there's a lot of training workshops being rolled out in the communities to help people have more understanding, like what are the signs to look out for. How do you talk to someone who is showing emotional distress? How do you ask someone whether they might be having such a difficult time, whether they are thinking of suicide? How do you ask in a sensitive and caring way? And then how do you refer them to the right resources?
I'm going to go divert here a bit, all right? Divert into
Yeah.
these questions, into many questions itself.
Yeah.
Is it still a taboo topic to talk about? Because in Singapore, or even when you want
Mm,
to talk about communities, everybody, shh, shh,
mm, mm,
everybody is like, hush, 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 hush. Like,
mm,
you know, but of course, right? As a mental health practitioners,
mm.
we have to talk. We all have to do the part. But still, is it a taboo topic in Singapore to talk about commit suicides?
I would say taboo and stigma, like compared to say 20, 30 years ago, we've really come a long way. It has the taboo has really gone down a lot. The stigma has reduced to some extent. But of course, there is still room for improvement.
Right.
Yeah, so generally the younger generations, like even until the younger working adults, yeah, not just the youths, but the younger working adults are also more willing to talk about mental health, more willing to talk about suicide. I think one common fear or worry why people don't ask or it's because they're afraid or they think that, oh, if I ask whether you're thinking of suicide, is that putting the idea in your head? Yeah, but actually, okay, what we understand from research and also from all the clinical experience is that if someone is really going through such a hard time, they would appreciate someone coming up to them and ask, hey, how are you? Are you okay? It's okay to talk about things that are difficult. It's okay to talk about your struggles. I'm here to listen. Or even start asking like, hey, have you ever felt so bad that you thought about ending your life? Yeah. So um, a person who is having a hard time would appreciate having that conversation. Yeah, because asking means you care enough to listen. Yeah, and that would encourage them to talk about it. And once they start talking about it, it's a chance for intervention. Yeah, not
Right.
just for them to feel that, yeah, you're here to listen to me. It's also a chance for intervention because then the listener can then determine like, oh, how serious is this? Or start thinking of like what kind of help can I get this person? What are the resources to link them up with, or like how can I really make sure that this person is safe?
Right.
Yeah.
Then we shall we jump into the simple
Mm.
strategies that we can actually to prevent or even to manage it. Early on, of course, I mean we talked about this. When one will decide that they need
Yeah.
help, or even for
Yeah.
the loved ones, right? If let's say if I look at my friend, and I say, hey, what
Mm-hmm.
happened to our beer session, man? You're not coming for a beer session at all, and he disappears. He doesn't want to message. He doesn't want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
See him outside. It's like very lost weight or rather gain weight. This sign and symptoms, I mean, is that like a universal sign and symptoms that we can look out for? Or when one will decide that they need help and they come and approach? Will that be the
Okay.
simple strategies that we can involve in as well?
Okay, okay. Oh, well, initially I was thinking of the strategies in terms of like how to take care of yourself,
Okay. Yeah, we can jump into
how
that
to
as well.
protect. Yeah, maybe we'll start with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how to protect our mental health? I think firstly it's really about prioritizing self-care. And a lot of people tend to think that, oh, self care means that I put my needs first. That sounds very selfish. How can I do that? Because, especially in our Asian collective, this kind of culture, we are taught to like be considerate, right? Look out for
Right.
others, put other people's needs first. But then you think about it, just like the airplane flight safety briefing, right? The stewardess would tell you, like, if in the event we need oxygen mask, please put on your own mask first before helping others.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the logic for that is
Right. True.
if you go unconscious already due to lack of oxygen, you're going to be useless. You can't help anybody.
Very
Yeah.
true.
So taking care of ourselves is so that we can continue to be effective, so we can continue to contribute to our community. Yeah. So self care is really not selfish at all. Okay. It doesn't mean that we only think about ourselves and um, like don't care about other people. It's actually about balancing. Yeah. So when I advocate for self care and when I teach my clients or in workshops about maintaining your well being, okay, I always emphasize this idea of balance. So you can even start thinking about it like treating your well being like a bank account. For bank account, what we want to do is like reduce our spending, right, and
Yeah.
increase our savings. Yeah. So daily, okay, you can start inculcating this habit of like thinking about your own well-being. Like, hey, today how's my well-being account? Yeah. Am
Right.
I
So you do a
having
self check. You do a self check
yes?
on yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Do a self-check. So actually, this practice of doing a self-check is actually practicing like you paying attention to your own well-being. Because so often we get so caught up in chasing external tasks and outcomes, right? A lot of people actually don't have that habit of checking in on themselves. And then only when they fall sick, then they realize, oh, I've been too busy recently, right? Until like, oh, I caught a flu, or maybe I should have rested more. Yeah. So for mental health, it's also the same. You don't wait until like, wow, you really burn out and feel like, no, I don't have any mental energy, any more mental and emotional energy for anything else. That's
Mhm.
when you're burnout already. And then it will take time for you to recover because that mental health continuum, right? The further you are from the optimal healthy state, the longer and more effort you need to get back there. Yeah. So if you can practice doing like a daily self check, like, oh, am I having more negative, stressful experiences today or more positive experiences? So if you realize that, oh, today has been really quite tough, then you can actually um, make some conscious efforts to
That
do
reminds me,
what
Lilian,
helps
that
you feel
reminds me
good.
like a startup for a car, right? Before you start the car,
Ah, uh-huh.
warm up the engines, or just check
Yeah.
around your car, the tires are good, the engines are good,
Yes.
then you start,
Yes. Yeah, you don't just drive off without checking anything, and then halfway on the expressway your car breaks down. Then what?
that's it. You
Yeah.
call the tow trucks.
Yeah, so it would be much better, can prevent a lot of problems if you check first and then do that maintenance before it really breaks down. Yeah, so do the same for our mental health. Yeah.
Right.
And then actually, yeah, I wanted to ask you about exercise, physical exercise.
Yeah.
What's your understanding of the connection between physical health and mental health? This is your fitness coach, right?
Yes, that's right. I mean, we all know that our human body is, of course, not just muscles and bones. It's like
Mm.
full of chemical, right? And that's what Lilian Ong was earlier on was talking about how our mood changes. So exercise is usually one of the outlet that we work like 8 hours or 10 hours. Like even I know some of them are working like 13 hours a day, doing
Yeah,
overtime and so forth, to cater to the economy or to the where we are right now for the growth.
yeah,
But are we putting so much of pressure on ourselves? So when the exercise part comes in, I think it's one of the outlet that your hormones get adjusted, like your dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and even your
yep,
endorphins, right? There's a way that to express your frustration sometimes. So I mean, just imagine,
yes,
Lilian, I mean, in the office, somebody's in a tight schedule and deadlines are coming in, and the boss like hungry or the hungry or angry bear, and then there's
mm,
politics going on. I mean, unfortunately, all corporate some or other there is, right. So that the person is just overwhelmed, and the only way to outlet, and to keep your body, in progression is
mm-hmm,
exercise. When you
yeah,
enter to the gym, it is not just about losing weight or getting toned up, but it is about releasing your stress. So I think every one of us, either it's a gym or you're going for a walk or any some sort of expiration in terms of your perspiration, I think that will be a very good element to just to keep yourself in check, just like what you said
mm,
earlier, right? The
mm,
self check on yourself. So I think that's very important to involve at least 40
yes.
minutes of exercise per day.
Yes, yeah. So exercise has been shown to really boost not just our physical health, but it boosts our brain health. And brain is like the operating center for our mood and our thinking, decision making, problem solving
Yeah.
abilities. Yeah. So regular exercise really can help our mental health as well. Yeah. And movement, even if we can't do like rigorous exercise, according to the recommended 3 times a week, at least get up and stretch, and you feel that wow, that muscle tension is being released, and that will send signal to your brain to also feel less stress mentally. Yeah. So even breathing exercises, yeah, simple ways we can like take effective breaks, even if we are still working hard in the office. Like
Right.
every 1 hour, stand up and stretch, and just focus on your breathing for like just 30 seconds or 1 minute. It won't take up so much time, but that focus on your breath, right, helps to ground your what we call ground or center
Yeah.
your mind to the current present moment, and then it calms because that slow deep breathing really calms the body, and it sends a signal to the brain to also feel calmer in our mind, and then
You
we
know, you
can be more
know,
effective.
Lilian, I
Yeah.
mean, most people working the corporates, right? I mean, for
Mm-hmm.
those, I think every hour should at least
Mm-hmm.
take 5 minutes of break, right?
Yeah.
Maybe all the CEO out there who are listening to this, if you want productivity, if you want better mental health for your employees, I think please allow them to take at least 5 minutes of break, but not a smoke break. It is about meditation and stretching break. I think like what Lilian Ong has said, and I also echo for that. I agree that would definitely will help. And the viewers who are listening to this right now, we are live in social media, especially in Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and also we will be in Spotify and Apple Podcasts listening to Lilian Ong on the topic of the Inside Out, which is a mental health. And Lilian Ong is actually from the Wellness Journey. So this is a website and an email if you have any questions that you want to ask her, or if any help or assistance that you may need for your loved ones or even for your friends, you are you're welcome to ask her. And she's the registered counselor. We are speaking with her almost about 40 minutes. Thank you, Lilian, for spending 40 minutes almost there.
Yeah.
So we are going to practice one more simple strategy before we go to the next question. So what will your
Okay.
simple strategy be?
Okay. This may sound very cliche, but
Okay.
it really works, backed up by
Okay.
research. Okay.
Yeah.
Gratitude, practice gratitude, or like counting your blessings. Yeah. Because the human brain has a natural bias to look out for problems and negative situations. Yeah, because of our need for survival, we are geared to look for problems so we can like tackle the problems and survive, right? But that tendency also means that we may actually neglect or fail to pay attention to positive situations. And so that really leads to a balance of like, yeah, we pay more attention to negatives and then we feel like, oh, life really sucks. Yeah, it's so miserable. It's always about problems, stress. Yeah, but if we practice giving attention to what's going well or what we are grateful for, things that we appreciate, it can be as simple as, oh, wow, I appreciate having this 5 minutes to just be quiet, have like peace of mind. Or I appreciate being able to have this healthy meal in front of me. Yeah, or I appreciate coming home to a safe environment. I don't have to worry about like, oh, will someone break in when I'm sleeping in the middle of the night?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Zephyr.
yeah. So making time to really connect emotionally with that feeling of appreciation and gratitude, it has been shown to improve our well-being if we do it regularly. Yeah. So a lot of
Lilian,
these
I
things
just have
are we have to
to
do it consistently.
I just have to echo to this what you have said.
Yeah.
Gratitude. I think we are very fortunate, and I have to say this and stress this word because in Singapore, we are sleeping peacefully while
Mm-hmm.
our Ministry of Defense, the Air Force, the land, and the sea are
Yeah.
constantly protecting us. So we definitely have to be full of gratitude towards it. And I think you nail it. And I think gratitude makes us feel humble. We feel
Yeah.
connected, we
Mm-hmm.
feel soften a bit, and I think the burden will just release us because all the time, Lillian, I think we are always expecting for more. I mean, it's some sort of a human nature, right? If I give you
Yeah.
ten
Yeah.
dollars you want $50. Unless you don't want $50, Lillian, I will take it. You
Mm.
know what I mean? But
Yeah.
when we do gratitude, I think we are humbling and humble ourselves to the ground, and I think that is where
Yes.
you mentioned meditation or even the stretching, or it gives you, we are turning inwards of our
Mm.
the place that we live. And I totally
Mm.
agree with that because the gratitude that you mentioned, I think works, but it's just that people got to believe in it and start doing it, right?
Yes. Yes. The tricky part is always about getting started and then maintaining it as a
Yeah.
regular practice. Yeah, because just like physical exercise, you can like be very active, work out in the gym like consistently for 3 months, but if you stop for 6 months after, then your physical state is going to go down. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for our mental health, it's the same, and that's one of the reasons why I named my company Wellness Journey, because to keep our wellness going, it is really lifelong. It's a whole journey that we need to, yeah, just build and maintain.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
once again, we are with Lillian Ong from Wellness Journey. She's a registered counselor, and we are engaging right now almost about 43 minutes. So if you're watching this from LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, please do share and like because we will love this to be shared with a lot of people. You may never know your loved ones or someone's watching this maybe in a year time or even tomorrow itself may be helpful for them. And
Mm-hmm.
we always want to bring exciting topics here at Kopi Events. So Lilian, let's go into the next question itself. We know the psychologists, the neurologists, these therapists, counselors, so many professions. So how do we know what's the difference between them and
Mm-hmm.
who do we go to?
Okay. Yeah. So firstly, now, maybe let me just share a bit about like how do you know when you need to seek professional help. So I spoke about the mental health continuum, right? So when you're feeling good in your overall well-being, then just continue with your own coping strategies and support from friends and family. Or even if you feel like, yeah, sometimes you're reacting a little bit, yeah, then perhaps do more of your self-care and connect with supportive people. And then when it comes to when you're on the like what we call the injured or the ill part of the mental health continuum, that's when you start to feel like, hey, more than half the time, I'm struggling to cope, struggling to get through the day. I can't manage my emotions. I didn't mean to have this outburst, or I didn't mean to cry out in at the workplace, but then it just happened. So if more than half the time you're struggling to manage your emotions and finding it hard to cope with your daily demands, if you find that there's significant impact on your relationships, the symptoms are really getting more and more persistent, like a poor sleep, poor appetite, or like Vance mentioned just now, it could be like increased appetite, like stress eating, right? Or changes in behavior, yeah, becoming more withdrawn, or getting into like dangerous behaviors, being more impulsive because yeah, they're so stressed, they don't care anymore, and they just want to, yeah, cope in what they think is the best way. But it could be like increased alcohol use, drugs even, yeah. So when it goes to those states, or especially when the person starts thinking about hurting themselves, or thinking that life is not worth living anymore, those all those are signs that they will need professional help. And yes, there are several different mental health professionals. I think the easiest to differentiate would be psychiatrists. So psychiatrists are medical doctors. Okay, they go through med school just like all the other doctors, and then they specialize in mental health. So psychiatrists can prescribe medication if it's needed. So for some cases, especially if the symptoms are moderate to severe levels, then medication can help together with counseling and therapy. And over time, the person will find themselves recovering to their normal state again. And then therapist tends to be like an umbrella term that could include both psychologists and counselors.
Right.
Yeah. Mm.
So,
So
so we
what's the
have a lot
difference
of
between,
professions out there to help us, all of us.
sorry?
In fact, there's a lot of professionals out there to help all of us.
Oh yes, lot, yeah. Psychologists and counselors tend to have more overlaps because both learn about the human mind and how problems come about, how to help people recover. So the difference is more like the degrees that they study. Yeah, the education track. Yeah. So for myself, I had a basic degree in psychology, but that's not enough to practice as a clinical psychologist. So I started work as a prisons counselor, and then from there I took my master's in counseling. Yeah. And then I'm a registered counselor, meaning that I meet the requirements stated by Singapore Association for Counselling. Like
Right.
we need to have at least 600 hours of counselling, and then also yeah, meeting supervision requirements. And no matter how long we've been in this industry, we still need to have supervision because the human mind is so complex, and no matter how experienced we can be, there can still be blind spots. So supervision helps us to ensure that we are always assessing the case very thoroughly and helping the client in the best way possible. Yeah. So psychologists, clinical psychologists are also providing like counseling or talk therapy to help the clients. But more importantly, it's like if you are the one seeking help, right? I would suggest looking at whether the psychologist or counselor that you are searching. Okay, look through their profiles and their experiences. Yeah, whether it fits with the issues that you're facing, and also look through the approaches that they tend to use, because there are many different therapy approaches that we can use, um, because there's no one size fits all.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lilian, for that. For viewers watching this, we are live in Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok as well. Together with me is Lilian Ong, a registered counselor from the Wellness Journey. almost 50 minutes, Lilian. So we have another a particular question for you. After that,
Mm-hmm.
I have received a few questions from viewers, but all the names will be P and C, and probably I will post that to you later part of the last 5 minutes of it. So we're just going to go into the last part of the question that I have for you. Just talking, right?
Mm,
Not just purely talking, because when you speak to someone with an issue, probably you
mm,
already assessing the situation, you're looking at the sign and symptoms, and
yeah.
probably you're also looking at the body languages. I mean, probably there's more that you'll be looking at. But can they just talk to friends and families instead of a counselor?
Yeah, that's a common question. Because yeah, when we describe what we do in counseling, okay, it's talking. Yeah, so people wonder like, huh, just talking? Can I talk to my friends and family? But it's
Yeah,
different because when you talk to friends and family, they know you, right? And so sometimes they may have certain agenda in their mind. Could be still be in your best interest, yeah, but because they know you, then they might not have that objectivity, that neutrality that can be more helpful when you're in difficult situations. So of course it's still important to have the support from family and friends. Yeah, I don't mean that when a person seeks professional help, then they don't need care and support from their friends and family. In fact, a lot of research has shown that when someone is going through mental illness or even just mental health struggles,
right.
okay, yeah, support from friends and family is a crucial part of their recovery as well. Yeah,
Mhm.
but when you talk to a professional counselor or psychologist, because of our training, we're able to assess, okay, what's contributing to your stress and
Right.
these signs and symptoms you're experiencing, okay, and then we're able to help you gradually understand like, oh, okay, where all these contributing factors are coming from, how can we try to overcome these issues step by step. Yeah, because we have to balance a lot of factors. I mean, even if we know what the problems are and what are the possible steps you can take, I can't just like give you all these 10 strategies you go and do from A to Z, and yeah, you will surely recover. We have to pace. We have to pace the interventions at um, yeah at the client's readiness.
Right.
Yeah, and then we journey together with them. Yeah, because the recovery may also usually it's not a straight line up, but that comes with fluctuations. Yeah, so overall, when you compare, like say, 3 months or 6 months after you start your counseling, definitely there will be improvements. But in between, there could be fluctuations, and that's where um, trained professionals will know, okay, whether these fluctuations are within the normal expectations, and will be able to support the clients such that they don't feel discouraged by these fluctuations. Yeah, and they still continue to practice the strategies that they're learning. Yeah, it could be like how to take care of themselves, how to communicate better with their loved ones or their colleagues. Yeah, and how to cope with the difficult emotions when it arises. Yeah.
As we go into different questions today, Lillian, one thing that I observed, right? I mean,
Mm,
mental health or issues can happen to anyone, right?
mm-hmm,
But do you think that most will be very comfortable putting a mask, showing the external world that I'm
mm,
happy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, so many things. But inside, there's a
mm,
darker secret. They may be trying to recover or trying to battle with it. For that kind of situations,
mm,
people pick the body signals or the sign and symptoms because they fear that they be judged. They fear they may be
mm.
labeled as, "Oh, you are got issue with this," and I
Yeah.
think now we have moved into a new era that we are talking and saying, let's talk about it, right? But there are
Mm,
still some feel hesitated to
mm.
reach out for help,
Yeah.
and they're trying to battle that within themselves. For people who are hearing this, what would
Mm.
your advice be, and how they come out from the shell and say, you know what, I'm burnout, I'm stressed, I feel anxiety, I feel agitated, I need help. What will your advice be?
Yeah, I think that tendency and pressure to keep up a front and show people that you're still functioning well is especially evident in workplaces. Yeah, because in workplaces, we really don't know how our management or how our colleagues might perceive us if we start sharing that we're
Right.
struggling in our mental health. Yeah, unless the company has already started showing some efforts in raising awareness and providing services for the employees to seek help. But for a lot of workplaces, they might still yeah be some way, yeah,
Mm.
some way to go for that. So there's always this pressure to keep up, and people would be afraid of losing their jobs, right? Like yeah, how are you going to look at me, or how you're going to think about my work, my ability to keep up with these work demands. Yeah, but if you are struggling inside and you try to keep up a front every day, it definitely takes a lot of effort, mental and physical and emotional energy, just
Right.
to keep up with all that. Yeah. I had one recent client who is sh- struggling with anxiety, and because she is in quite a high position at work, she really didn't want anyone to find out. So at work, she still puts in like her 200% to get things done. But at the end of the workday, she goes home, she really collapses, and she wasn't able to interact with her two teenage children. She wasn't able to enjoy family activities with them like before. She would just collapse and sleep all the way until the next day and then repeat the whole process again. Yeah. So of course, over time, the body is going to protest. Yeah. She started having health issues, not just not just with her anxiety and panic attacks, but even her liver was showing signs of inflammation. Yeah. So the longer you try to hold it together and not seek help for it, then I think it's just a time bomb waiting to explode. Yeah. So my advice is really still yeah, seek help early. Yeah, and if you
And,
seek help early, it really wouldn't affect your work very much. Yeah, and with a lot of settings now also have like evening sessions or weekend sessions.
and also, Lillian, if one have not come up for reaching out help, or
Mm-hmm.
at least loved ones around us, right? Especially our spouses, friends, I mean, sign and symptoms we just shared and we talked about it. And I think if that has not been resolved or solved, I think that can lead to blood pressure as well because constantly you are
Yes.
agitated, you are very anxious, you are always in a high mode or flight mode or fight mode, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Then this actually can affect the heart as well. Like you pointed out very well, that it is not just about mental health anymore. It is now
Mm-hmm.
going into the physical and emotional. And I think
Yes.
then it goes under the three part emotional, physical, and mental. You are just going to
Yeah.
be screwed. I'm sorry to say that,
Yeah.
but that's what, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Physical health problems like heart disease,
Yeah.
stroke, cancer, all have a link to stress. Yeah. So if we don't take care of our stress levels actively, right? Even if you don't experience anything right now, down the road, yeah, you're going to see the consequences. So it's really always better for
Right.
both our physical and mental health, yeah, to do the proactive care upfront, so we don't
Mm.
have to deal with the consequences down the road.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lilian, for that. And I think we are going to take few questions, and we are live in TikTok as well. Thank you so much for following us. This is a podcast on the Inside Out with me, together with this Lilian Ong, the founder and of Wellness Journey. She's a registered counselor. So I'm just telling viewers from TikTok that we are live as well. Thank
Yeah.
you for joining us on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Thank you so much. This will be definitely going into Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. So as I'm now, I'm going to take a question right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to mention names, as I mentioned, it's B and C. Hi
Sure.
Lillian, hi Vance. Thank you for this podcast. I really enjoy it. Please do not mention my name. Of course, I won't mention your name at all. Of course, no, no, no. I'm divorced, constantly emotional roller coaster, and I can't find happiness. My only happiness I have right now is my kid.
Mm.
What else can I do in this life? Thank you.
Wow. That's that's a tough situation to be in. So as a single mom, yeah, you find that your world revolves around your child, but definitely it would be important for you to also find yourself, find your own source of happiness so that you can then lead a satisfying life together with your child. Yeah. So I think that's quite a big question you have there. I think without understanding more personal details, it's quite hard for me to yeah, give any other recommendations. But I hope you have a support system to keep you going. Yeah, because it can be really challenging being a single mom, and then um, yeah, if you are ready to seek counseling and therapy help, then that's how you can start a journey of self discovery. Yeah, to find your source of happiness and your purpose. Yeah, so definitely, um, anybody deserves to lead a happy and satisfying life. Yeah,
Thank
so
you,
I hope
Lilian.
you get the support you need.
Thank you so much for the question as well. I'm gonna take another one more question, but before that, some quick question about yourself, Lilian. I mean, what sports
Hmm.
do you play?
What sports do I play?
Yeah.
Good question.
You got to answer that in very quick number of seconds, only 2 seconds. You can't think.
Okay.
What sport do you play?
Occasional badminton with my daughter, but I try to do kickboxing.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What do you make yourself happy?
Uh, well, music. Yeah, spending time with myself.
Favorite food?
Favorite food. Potato, eggs, mushroom.
Wow, not bad. So at least you see, within a period of less than 30 seconds, we came to know about you a little bit more about yourself, right? Lilian, I mean, of course, as viewers are watching this, of course, they can get back to Lilian, and I'm going to put it on the email address and the website address of hers is
Yes.
wellnessjourney.sg. You can also connect with her on an email, lilian@wellnessjourney.sg. That's where you can get connected with Lilian. Lilian, in your 2 decades of practicing mental health as a
Mm-hmm.
counselor, what is the most frequent cases that you see that sometimes you feel even you yourself in a roller coaster? If you ever been, if you've never been, it's a different story. But do you go into roller coaster with these kind of situations before?
Wow, I think several times throughout my career. Yeah, I think one of the more memorable ones was when I was working in the hospital because it's a women's hospital. So I deal with quite a lot of like pregnancy loss and stress during pregnancy or postnatal. Yeah, so there was one patient who suffered from pregnancy loss, and it was really difficult because yeah, it was a much long awaited pregnancy. And after IVF and all that, so she was like very happy to get pregnant finally. But then during like midway through the pregnancy, unfortunately, the baby just couldn't survive. And it was very heartbreaking to hear her talk about it. And because I'm a mom myself, I really just felt like, wow, I don't know how people go through that. Yeah. So because we in counseling, we really put a lot of ourselves into this work. Like you mentioned earlier on, like not just listening passively, but um, really using our emotions to connect with the client and to respond to them in ways that can support their emotions, can journey with them in the most difficult times. Yeah. So uh, yeah, not just that client, but a lot of other situations. I think when clients are feeling the worst, I also feel like wow, yeah. So those are the emotional roller coasters. And of course, when clients get better, then I also feel very happy for them. Yeah. So I think overall, it's really worth doing this job, and I feel really privileged to be a part of these clients' lives. Yeah, witnessing their growth, no matter how challenging the situations are. Eventually, they all grow from it and learn something, gain something from those experiences. Can't hear you, Vance.
So that explains wellness journey, right? That is
Yeah.
your website and also your company, right? Wellness journey. It's not just
Yes.
one time. It's throughout the journey that you are there to provide the assistance. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lilian. I'm going to take the one more question right now. Um, when, okay, of course, not mentioning the name. When
Hmm.
do you think I will seek professional help when I feel so moody? So I think his question is he
Mm.
feels so moody, and I think
Mm.
he's asking
Okay.
whether he needs assistance.
Right. So, firstly, how long have you been feeling moody? And is this moodiness affecting your daily functioning, like getting in the way of your work, getting in the way of your relationships? And if it's been going on for more than 2 weeks, then that would be a good time to get help. Of course, 2 weeks doesn't sound like very long, right? But we're all about like early intervention and prevention. Yeah. So of course, if the moodiness just started recently, you probably don't need to go to a specialist like psychiatrist. Yeah, you can start with a counselor or psychologist first. Yeah, and anyway, counselors and psychologists are trained to look out for what's the severity of your mood condition. So if the counselor or psychologist feels that you do need to see a psychiatrist, they will then discuss with you and let you know how to go about doing it. Yeah.
Thank you, Lilian. Thank you so much for the question. And I think we are almost coming to the end of the podcast. I know Lilian is still in office right now. Probably it's your bedtime or in dinner time. So sorry for that. But of course, our late podcast as such, and I would love to meet up with you for a cup of Kopi. That's
Yes,
right.
we should meet up for a real cup of coffee one day. Yeah,
And so, yes, I hope you have taken your dinner, yeah?
I have. Thanks.
Not feel so bad. Thank you, Lilian. I mean, before we end this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
your tip of the iceberg advice to people who are listening to this, um, your time.
Mm. Yeah, so mental health is really something we need to take care from within, from inside. That's why we titled this podcast episode Inside Out. Yeah, start being aware of how you're thinking, how you're feeling, how you're behaving. Notice what you need in order to improve your well being, and then take action to care for your mind and body, right? So you can function effectively and live a purposeful, satisfying life. Yeah. So that's my wish for everybody. Please do take care, reach out for help if you need. Yeah.
Thank you so much for all the viewers who are watching this and from LinkedIn people out there. Thank you so much. And TikTok as well. Thank you so much. I think they're watching as well from
Yeah.
TikTok. Yeah,
Thank you for all your presence and thank you for having me, Vance.
my pleasure, Lillian. And definitely, like we mentioned, the copy have to come in.
Yes.
Thank you, Lilian. Thank you so much, and we will catch up real soon. Thank you once
Yep.
again.
Okay. Thank you. Really enjoyed myself with this chat. Thank you. Bye
Thank you, Lilian.
bye.
Bye bye. So that's Lilian from the Wellness Journey SG. All right, and you can also email her at Lilian at wellnessjourney.sg, so you can actually get assistance from her if you think that you require. Um, something about help and assistance. I think in the past, or even some may be thinking that when you get help, or even when you reach out, that's always a kind of weakness. But it's not at all. When you reach out for help, that is the most bravest and the strength that one individual may have, because you're going to put in for yourself. You are getting better, and reaching out will not put anyone into a stigma, into a judgment, or an even label, right? And I think self-care is very important, and Lilian, I totally agree with Lilian as well, that gratitude practices and simple practices that actually makes you feel better, and that's the simple strategies that Lilian can has shared with us. Starting to do little things for ourselves, and that will makes us better. And also, when we covered a little bit on the exercises, exercises is one of the fundamental of keeping ourselves healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally as well. Not necessary that you have to go into the gym. Of course, if you have the luxury, if you have the time, please do. That my suggestion is it's a time for weaknesses to convert into strength. All right, they are literally a time to download. So that is a very important part that we covered as well. Um, every week, a different topic that is coming in Kopi events. I hope you have enjoyed it. And if you're watching this right now, please do share and like, because that will go out to many may need that help. This is your host, Vance here, and I'll catch you on the next topic. Adios, amigos. Ciao.